First up, no pressure. Things are about to get serious, so I'm going to take off my snapback for the moment, and let's begin. Who here has had a life-changing experience? Who here has had a positive life-changing experience? Now finally, who here has had a negative life-changing experience? Today I'm going to talk to you about the past few years of my life and what I've learned. And the past few years of my life have been incredibly rich. Not in monetary terms, I was a student after all, but they've been some of the most impactful years of my life. See, I grew up with a fantastic life. I went to a great school. I was always good at sports. I did well in my leaving cert. I got the course I wanted in college. I truly enjoy going to lectures and learning. I was able to travel the world. I've had jobs where I was paid to have fun. And most importantly, I had an incredibly supportive and close-knit friends and family. But it hasn't always been great for me. See, somewhere along the way, things started to go downhill for me. I started drifting away from friends, and when I was with them, I felt like I wasn't connecting with them. The sports I used to once love to play, I just couldn't find the passion in anymore. The lectures I used to find captivating, compelling, just didn't seem interesting to me anymore. And I just felt wrong. And it got to the point where the hardest part of each day for me was trying to get out of bed. And me not being able to do the things that made me happy made me resent myself. And that turned into a hatred for myself. And I had a sadness that plagued me, and it consumed any bit of happiness that tried to burst into my life. And I was diagnosed with depression. See, the thing with depression is you can beat it, and you feel like it's a small chapter of your life, and that you've put that dark period behind you. But then it can hit again, and it hits hard. Harder than ever before, and it lasts for longer, and your confidence in your ability to beat depression and get happiness back into your life disappears. See, for me, I continuously went in and out of depression for over 2 years, and each time I went into depression, it went darker, and it was longer, and it was harder to beat. And the level of happiness I experienced, the duration of that was just shorter and shorter. And it was very difficult for me because my confidence kept on going downhill, and it took everything I had to try and beat this depression, to get back to what I deemed normal or happy me. And I kept on fighting and fighting and fighting, and I took everything I had, but the depression kept on coming back. And I couldn't beat it. It was beating me. So it got to the point where there was me and there was depression. And I wasn't beating depression. Depression was beating me. And one of us had to go. And that had to be me, because happiness wasn't possible for me anymore. It wasn't a choice. It wasn't attainable. It was such a far-gone illusion that I couldn't picture what being happy was like anymore. It was not possible in my life. So it got to the point where I started planning my suicide. And that's a very strange place to be, because you can hate yourself so much, and you can be so angry at yourself, and you have so many negative feelings, and the times where I was planning my suicide attempt were the times I felt most at peace. The fact that I had the choice of ending it all and ending the suffering made me feel good, and knowing there was an end in sight, I didn't have to go through this terrible time in my life. So 2 days before I attempted suicide, I had a plan. I laid my junior cup rugby gear out in the bed, as that was one of the happiest times of my life, and I wanted to be buried in it. I got my tie out to hang myself with. I had my note planned of what I wanted to say to my parents and apologize to them, although any note never would have been enough. It never is enough. And I got to the point where I was just about to try and hang myself, and I made the choice. I said, no, this isn't it for me. So if there's a fight worth fighting, it's for me and my happiness. But unfortunately, 2 days later, I got some bad news. And I marched into my room, my thoughts racing, and I didn't go with my plan. I didn't lay out my junior cup gear. My note I wrote, "I'm sorry, I'll always love you, Adam." That wouldn't have been enough, although it never is. And I went to hang myself. I remember as I hung there, suffocating, my lungs screaming out for oxygen, I had a calmness come over me. My eyes were closed, it was black, and ending it at that point felt like the right thing to do. And I was so close to actually dying. I could feel the white light just immersing itself over me. And for some reason, my family came into my head. I said, I can't do this to him. I have to make the choice right now to say no. And I stopped. Now, let me ask you this. Was this a good or bad point in my life? To me, it's the greatest point in my life. It's the best moment that has ever happened, this whole experience. See, the way I view life now is I view life experience not as positive or negative based on whether it made you happy or the outcome of the event. I view life experiences as positives or negatives based on the impact it has on you. Based on, does it help develop you? Can you learn from it? Can it help form who you are? Can you take what happened to you and help others? And that's what I'm going to ask you to do today when you go away. See if you can look at life experiences, something that may have been negative in the past, and try and readdress it and try and see if you can turn it into a positive from looking at it differently. Because life is all about experiencing things. We're only here for a short amount of time, and we should try and experience as much as we can and turn as many things into positive experiences as we can. Similar to getting stung by a nettle when you were younger. You may have been in pain, you may have cried, and you may have been scarred for a while, but the scar fades and you have the memory. You experience something and you learn from it. You learn not to touch nettles anymore, or you might have told someone else and helped them not get stung by telling them, don't touch nettles. And I'm happy I experienced getting stung by a nettle because, yes, it may not have made the biggest impact in my life, but I've learned from it and I'm happy I experienced it. But I'm not happy about the countless other times I've been stung by nettles. See, I'm going to tell you now about how I actually use this philosophy in my life. So 6 months after I attempted suicide, I ended up getting elected entertainment officer for the Students' Union here in UCC. So my job was to organise events, parties, DJs, rag weeks, comedians, and I had the ultimate life. I was very popular on campus. People knew me as this fun guy who was always out and bringing people together and trying to connect people. But the reality is, or was, that I had a lot more going on in my life, and there was times where I was very sad and not enjoying myself. So at that point in time, we had brilliant advocates like Brezzi and Connor Cusack, but we didn't have any real student mental health activists. So I remember the night before our mental health week in the college, I decided to write a Facebook status about my experience with depression, what it was like when I first experienced it, telling my friends, my family, about how I felt when I was self-harming, about how it felt to relapse and have all hope lost, and to go into mental hospital and come out the other side as a new and improved person. I remember posting it, hitting post, and being in my kitchen and shaking, scared out of my life of getting negative feedback. And thing is, I didn't get any negative feedback. It was all positive. It was all people messaging me, thanking me for opening up, maybe inspiring them to open up to others or to give them just even a bit of hope. But there's one thing that I didn't address in that Facebook post, and that was my suicide attempt. And I never took note of the day or made a big deal of it because I just tried to close it off as a terrible point in my life. But I remember a few days before the second anniversary of me attempting suicide, I discovered the date. I said, look, I can go further with this mental health journey. So I wrote a status about my suicide attempt, how I was feeling, how I felt like there was no hope, how it was the absolute wrong option for me, and how it's the wrong option for everyone, and that it can be overcome. And it got a lot of traction. It got a few hundred shares, got a few thousand likes, but it wasn't about the likes or the shares or anything like that. It was about just helping even just one person. And one thing that stands out for me from that status was I had one guy message me saying that he randomly stumbled across my post because his friend shared it. And he was planning on committing suicide that night. And just by chance, he read my post and he thought again and went down to his mum and told her how he was feeling, and he got the help he needed. And he's still here today. And I'm not saying I saved a life, but I was able to prompt someone to just reconsider taking their own life, which is something I'm truly grateful for. And it doesn't stop there. So from my statuses, etc., I got contacted by 2 students in Cork saying they wanted to make a mental health documentary. And I said yes. I was like, if I can do my bit for mental health, then I will. I'll try and help others. And I was expecting a GoPro set up in a kitchen and me talking away, and I was happy with that. But over the course of 3 years, we developed it massively, and we got other young people involved, and we even got noticed by RTE, our national broadcaster. And after years of effort, we managed to get the first ever crowd-funded documentary ever aired on RTE2 on World Mental Health Day just gone. And that was incredible. And we had people all over Ireland watching. We had college houses coming together and having a discussion about a topic which they'd never discussed before. We had families of all ages sitting down and actually addressing an issue that could impact anyone in the family and impacts everyone at the end of the day. And the thing is, I wouldn't have been able to do this or have so much of an effect on it if I hadn't experienced all these terrible times I've been through. If I was never depressed, then I probably wouldn't have been able to impact people and turn what I've done with mental health into the greatest thing I've done in my life. I've been able to impact people all over Ireland and even further, and it's all because I had this terrible period of my life. But I don't look at it as a terrible experience in my life. I look at it as the best, because it's helped form me and shape me into the person, and it's helped me be able to help others, and I've developed myself from it. So the one thing I'm going to ask you to do today is, when you go away, will you look back in life, maybe a negative experience, and see if you can take that and look at it differently, see what you can take from it and do and develop yourself, and maybe you might be able to help someone else. And if you can do that, then you can change your life and really improve it a lot. So thank you for listening for me for the past 18 minutes. I hope you can go away today and look back at me speaking and think you had a good experience. Thank you.